Welcome back to Unchained, Healing from Addiction. And I'm here with Rob Burley. We're excited to hear Rob's story tonight. Last night, we began this journey together with a brief overview of the series, and we heard Richie's story. And tonight, we're going to continue this journey with learning the first breakthrough we must have to experience an unchained life. But first, we want to make sure that everybody's registered. Please register. To register, text Unchained to 534-444-7183. Everyone's information is completely confidential and will only be used during this series. We're not using it for anything else, but just this series. It encourages other people to stay tuned. Once you've registered, you will receive a text each day reminding you of that evening's presentation. To enter the nightly giveaway, text Unchained to 534-444-7183. We want to know that you're here, and we're excited that you're here. Each night, we will be giving away this signed copy of our speaker, Richie Halversen's book, The Darkness Will Not Overcome. But you have to click on that day's link in order to be entered. So you have to do it every evening so that we know that you're here, and then you'll be entered into the drawing. And this lets us know who is joining us that particular night. So we thank you in advance for doing that for us. Last night, we had people join us from all over, and we would love to hear from where you are joining us tonight. So put that in the chat. We would love to see that. And you're always welcome to make comments. We appreciate that. We want to create community here. Last night, we had people joining us from Lake Stevens. So where are you joining us from? We want to hear from you. Please make sure that you hit that like button and that share button. That lets us know that what we're bringing to you tonight and in this series is a blessing to you, and it lets other people know and about what we're doing and encourage them to join us. Everyone struggles with addiction on some level, and we all know someone who either struggles with addiction or we know someone who knows someone who struggles with addiction. So please help us get the message out. So I am so excited to have you with us, Rob.
Thank you,
for
Jen.
being here.
My pleasure.
And we appreciate you taking the time to share with us your story.
Absolutely. My
So
pleasure.
I'd like for you to tell us a little bit about your background and kind of when your struggle began.
Okay. I was born into an alcoholic family. My mother was an alcoholic. My dad was a normie. He kind of had some issues too, but mom was definitely an alcoholic. She drank all the time. She had to drink it. She had to, we're talking like 24/7. I mean, she would get the shakes and all that. And then all the kind of chaos as I was growing up that kind of came from that environment. It made me deathly afraid. She had went to various treatment centers, and I had an opportunity to kind of sit down and like Alateen and stuff like that and learn about addiction and things like that. And so and then they told me that your chances are probably higher that you're going to be an addict. So, be careful. And so I was always kind of scared of alcohol. Even when I got into high school and stuff like that, I was afraid of becoming an alcoholic, right? But so I went to drugs. So I started smoking a lot of pot, and just to kind of fit in, I guess. I always felt like I was different than everybody else, and I needed to kind of project a certain image of what I was, because if you knew the real me, you wouldn't like me. So we're going to pretend now, and the partying and the drugs kind of went in line with that. I played sports and stuff like that, and had a pretty good upbringing overall. There was a little bit of chaos in the house, but my dad was really solid, and so was my mother. They did the best what they could with what they have, right? And by the time I got out of high school, I was smoking pot every day probably from the time I was 13 years old until I was 23. I pretty much a daily marijuana user. Okay. Occasionally acid and mushrooms and those kind of things back at that's kind of what was available in high school back then. And I found out that I got a girl pregnant, and I didn't want that child to be raised with a pot smoking dad, right? So I stopped. I stopped that day, and I didn't do anything for probably 4 years. I didn't drink, I didn't smoke pot, I didn't do anything. I was just trying to be dad. And it was sort of like, looking back at it, it was kind of like white knuckling it to a degree. I was not happy. I was still that broken little boy inside, that scared little kid. I didn't want you to know me. I'm going to project. I never really had any close friends because I wouldn't let you in. Yeah, so there was that 4 years of that, and then that kind of transferred into a little bit of drinking now and then that caused problems. I got divorced from the first wife, and met my second wife and fell in love, and that was great. Had this great marriage for a period of time. But drinking would be a problem. I would look at the stopping. I was an alcoholic because maybe I was on the other percentile, because I would have problems drinking. She would say something, I would stop, but I didn't realize that a few weeks, or months later, it would start up again. It would get to a point, and it would just, then I would stop again. So anyway, kind of dealt with that. It wasn't until my mid-30s that I was working. I was very successful. I went to college.
You weren't using during that
time?
I
was drinking, but no, I wasn't using any drugs anymore. I wasn't smoking pot or anything. I was just drinking occasionally. And I remember the day I was working for a casino, and I was driving to a golf tournament. It was a vendor golf tournament, meaning that we were kind of presenting it for all our vendors, right? And I was in the slot tech department at the time. And I was driving my yellow Jeep with the top down, sunny day, had a headache, and there was girls. I was taking a couple girls with me to the event, to kind of help out. And girls have purses. I had a headache, and it's like, hey, do you have any aspirin? And they put 3 pills in my hand. Okay. And I took them, I figured, okay, took them. Oh, you didn't take all those at once, did you? I just got introduced to opiates at that moment to a big degree. It was Oxycontin and Vicodin. And it was a lot. And they're like, you shouldn't have taken that much. And that day, it was like there was like a hole in my soul that I was trying to fill with outside stuff. And in that moment, I was like, it's filled. I feel normal. I feel like I'm supposed to feel. I'm excited. I'm happy. I'm joyous. I'm free. I went on that golf tournament. I was watching a par 3 hole in one, and you win a car, right? And all the vendors saw me. And afterwards, I was the talk of that. People were saying, "Who's that guy? Who's that slot tech guy you have working out there at that? That guy needs to be in slot management. He's got something going on. He's got charisma. So I got promoted soon after that. Now, in my head, and in that moment, I should say this, I should back up a little bit. In the Jeep, when they handed me that and I took them, they said, if you wanted any more, you could buy them from me later. So that kind of left that door open a little bit. And then I get the promotion right after. I start working in I was a slot engineer, big, middle management, big pay increase and responsibility increase. And I thought the reason why is because I was so happy, joyous, and free, and I need more than pills. And it started simple as that. They're just pills. I mean, I'd taken them before. I get it. You go to the dentist, you get your Vicodin. I'd taken them. I liked them, but this was easy access. This was daily. And then my marriage started. It felt like there was a really, really good marriage. But then all of a sudden, I was better because I was better for her because I was always in a good mood, and so that's improving.
So
and
that was feeding it.
It's feeding it, yeah. And then it became an expensive habit, and she starts to notice the bank account's going down a little bit. She's like, where's all the money going? And I'm like, okay, I can stop. So I just quit. And then I got dope sick because I was physically addicted. And in that moment, I realized, okay, I'm an addict. It took the physical part to realize that I was an addict, right? Yeah.
What would you say where would you say you hit rock bottom?
Well,
or was that years?
That was years later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in that moment, I didn't stop. As soon as I got dope sick, I went and got more. And then, but I would never do heroin. My sister, I have an older sister who was she's passed, 6 years older than me. And I knew she did heroin, but I would never do that until she's like, hey, Rob, you're spending $240 a day in some cases for your Oxycontin. Wow. $40 will do the same thing. And all of a sudden, that's a good idea. But I'm only going to smoke it. So I'm never going to shoot it. I'm never going to put a needle in my arm until I did. Right. And now my world's beginning to collapse around me because now I'm no longer present in any moment. I have my kids. I love my kids. I'm a good dad. I'm a good husband, but I'm never present because all I'm thinking about is when can I use? When are you guys going to leave me alone so I can go in the bathroom and use? How long do I need to, what do I need to do to get away for a minute so I can use? I coached my son's basketball team, and I didn't have time to take a shot before I went to the game. I had to go in the bathroom of a Boys and Girls Club, roll my long sleeve shirt up because I'm coaching that day, and bump, to shoot. And that's what it became. And it was, my entire life was a lie and a secret. And I know.
No one knew you were using.
No one knew. I'm pretty sure that people had suspicions, because all of a sudden, I used to be really athletic, really fit. Now all of a sudden I'm pale and I get dark circles under my eyes and I'm not going to the gym as much and I'm not attentive, that hindsight's 2020 type situation. And then finally it all just came crash. I came home from work one day. Well, actually I got fired because I was missing work. I got fired from my job. I came home and the wife had the bags packed and the kids were gone. And she goes, I know something's going on. There was a big lie that I'm going to leave out of this interview, but there was a big lie that I told the families of what was going on to kind of cover the disease. And I told her, I was like, I'm a heroin addict. And imagine that reverberations of the disease, how it affects family, right? Because she knew, now my entire family knew that everybody I was the golden boy. I did it, I went to college. I was successful. I had the great family. My dad was so proud of me, right? And I come to find out your son's a junkie, right? So I go to rehab, and I was a rock star in rehab. I can talk. I can make you think things. Sure. And I wanted to be, if you put a lie detector on me, I really wanted to be clean.
Sure.
And I knew what to do. I got into, I got plugged into the fellowships and stuff like that. And I was told to go to 90 meetings in 90 days. I went to 1 in 4 days and got loaded 4 days later. It was because I wanted to do it on my terms. That's what the disease will do, right? It will lie to you and it'll be subtle. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to do it one more time. There is no one more time, because that was the first relapse of many. And I kept digging further and further bottoms, to the point where, just to kind of summarize, I didn't lose anything. I gave everything away. We're talking the house, the cars, the family, the wife, the kids, my parents' relationship. I traded it all for dope because I had to have it. Yeah. Because and what's crazy about this disease is it gets into you. It lies to you and says this is your comfort, and then it causes pain, because I know the guy that God made me to be is not this. I came from a secular household. I didn't really have God. I had a conception of God, but I didn't have God, right? I knew there was something out there, but I didn't know what it was. And so I just the pain that was caused by losing the very things, I go right back to the very thing to medicate that pain that caused it, and that cycle just continues, and it just a spiral down. And then we're talking homelessness. I ended up, my parents took care of me until my mom died from this disease. She died from late stage chronic alcoholic. She died in her sleep. My sister, IV drug user, died from toxic shock. Wow. And then my dad had COPD. The greatest, my dad was just a rock. He was the family, the family's rock, and he died from COPD. And I wasn't in speaking terms really with any of them at the time that they died. And so that pain, right? I have to medicate that too. I'm stealing from my dad. At the end of his life, I'm writing checks, out of his safe, and I'm doing all these things, and I hate myself so much. And now I'm homeless, and I'm living on the streets. First hotels, then car, and then they towed the car, so now I'm on the street, sleeping on cardboard, eating out of garbage cans, and living in complete darkness, absolute, and hopeless, 100% hopeless. I didn't have any hope left. I just was waiting to die. I thought it would be better if my family had one big bang, if I would just OD and die, or just die in my sleep, and then they would say, okay, Dad's gone, and we can mourn this one moment instead of these constant moments.
Right.
I remember the God, my conception of God at the time, I was like, why did you make me like this? Why are you punishing me? Why did you give me this disease? With no understanding of what, I never cracked the Bible. I didn't understand anything about sin or, so anyway, but I was out in the streets, I think for almost a year, on the street, sleeping on cardboard, eating in garbage cans, and it was Father's Day, and I wanted to go see my kids. Now the ex-wife's married, remarried, and I don't really want to go knock on their door. I haven't had a shower in 6 or 7 months, right? They don't want to see me, but I want to see them so bad. And I got my dope, and I was kind of hiding and using it, and I saw a police officer come in. And so I run away from the police officer towards the Dollar Tree where I was kind of staying in South Everett. And I'm kind of looking over my shoulder, and I'm looking around and waiting for the cop. And I turn and I look, and I see this license plate cover on the front of this Subaru, white Subaru. And it says 10% sugar, 90% spice. That's my ex-wife's car. That's the mother of my kid's car. And I gave her that license plate in 2003, right? You know, and I'm like, that's crazy. And I turn and I look, and I could see her in Dollar Tree with her hands up. They didn't know if I was alive or dead. My kids didn't know if I was alive or dead for months. And it was a Father's Day, 2023.
Wow.
You know, and I'm just like, and come to find out, my youngest daughter, had just got a job at the Ross right next door. They live in downtown Everett. This is South Everett we're talking about. So the chances of this happening are impossible, absolutely impossible without God, right? And I meet with them, I hug, there's this beautiful picture of me hugging my daughter, and my ex is like, you know, if, you know, we have somebody who wants to help you, you know, we have a number we can call, we can get you into treatment. And even despite all that beautifulful in that moment, I was like, not today though. I mean, maybe tomorrow, not today though, right? Wow. But I sat in that for 3 weeks. I ran into him again, same kind of, you know, very similar situation, chance meeting, and, you know, she goes, you know, I'm gonna make a phone call. You know, do you want to come in? And in that moment, I'm like, yeah, because I had 3 weeks to sit there and go. You can't deny God is involved in this. You absolutely cannot deny it, Rob. There is something out there, and you know, he loves you.
Yeah. And so you would say that was your turning point.
That was my turning point in that moment, right? So I go to detox. Now, God's got a sense of humor, right? We're made in His image. We have senses of humor, right? So, I ended up going to. I was recommended from a friend on the streets to go to Skagit Valley Detox. It's non-medical. And I'm in Skagit Valley on the weekend. So there's no escape. It's a hostage situation at this point, right? He's got me right where he wants to be, right? Yeah. I've been sick for a couple of nights. When you come off opiates, you can't really sleep and your anxiety is kicking and all those things. And I'm just like laying there in my own filth, and I still haven't showered yet. So I'm just disgusting. And I'm in a room by myself. It's a 2-bed room, but they're not putting anybody in there. I was that guy. Okay. They're like, keep everybody away from this guy. 125 pounds. I'm 170 now. So yeah, it's just light. Wow. Just broken. Giant hernia. I had a ventral hernia sticking out my gut. I was just brutalized. I was rough. And I would carry that hernia around for 18 months. Wow. Anyway, I'm laying in there, and I hadn't slept in 2 nights. And I finally just had that moment where I'm just like, oh, I surrender. I was like, Jesus, if you are real, I need you right now. I need you right now. Because I'm terrified, I'm alone, I'm scared, I'm sick, and I need you. Show up. And I laid there for, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 minutes and nothing. And I'm like, okay, I knew it. You're not real. And then I swear to you, Jen, in that moment, I don't remember anything after that. I just remember waking up in a period of time later. He gave me that sleep. And when I woke up, despite everything physically that was going on with me, I felt warm inside and I felt comforted. And I was like, thank you. And tears are streaming, you know, and I'm like, you showed up. You showed up for me. This junkie loser who gave away his family, you showed up for me. And I'm like, thank you. And about that time, somebody came in finally. They weren't even checking my vitals. They came in and they got me, and they told me to take a shower. They got me cleaned up a little bit. And they're like, I didn't know where I was going from detox. I had no plan. And they offered me a treatment. And originally I was supposed to go to one treatment center, but at the very last minute, God showed up again. He's like, we're going to send you to Seymour Turning Point, which is down in the Central District of Seattle. I'm a Snohomish County guy, so now we're going down here. And I'm like, cool. I'm trusting in this process. We're going to go there. And from there, I spent 28 days there. And then they kind of try and set you up with housing. And they were like, we got the Seattle Union Gospel Mission has a 1-year recovery program. Cool. Gospel Mission has a 1-year recovery. I'm listening. I'm a knucklehead. He needs to hit me on the head, right? And he's like, follow me. So
that's super cool.
Yeah. And so I ended up going there for a year, and that's really where the best thing I did is I got in that program and I opened the Gospels. I started in Matthew and I just read through the New Testament, and I got to know, he's like, get to know me. I want a relationship with you.
Yes.
And that takes that pain, and I recognize in that, like, he takes beauty from ashes. My life was complete ashes and destruction and everything. My testimony is my weapon against the evil one, right? Against this disease. Yes. I promise you, if I can sit here with almost 2 years sober, and to come and I actually work at that very mission that I started in, right? I work at Riverton Place, Seattle's Union Gospel Mission as their support services guy. It's incredible, I have a relationship with my family. I'm just, life's beautiful today, and it doesn't make any sense without God.
And you shared with me something about Psalms 23. Can you quickly share with us about that significance of that?
Yeah, I was in program maybe week 2, and they do devotions every morning. And Dan, one of the chaplains there, passed out a copy of Psalm 23, and I'm like, the Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. It doesn't mean material things. I may not have what I want, but I have, my brain still works. I don't have any business being as healthy as I am, right? I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. I'm sitting in this place, and I'm like, this is that what you're talking about. He leads me along the right path for his name's sake, I'm glorifying God. This is not Rob. This is all glory be to God. He prepares a table in the presence of my enemies, and it's, because that's what recovery is. He led me to Alcoholics Anonymous. That's my table. I'm ready. Bring it on.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That is so powerful. And so now you're at the Union Gospel Mission, and what are some things that you are looking forward to in this new unchained life that God is, we can't see into the future, but now that you're living this unchained life, what are some things that you're looking forward to, whether it's sharing your story or whatever it may be that, God has in store maybe for you that you're anticipating?
Yeah, life is so open now. First of all, I'm right where God wants me to be, where I can do the most good. I work with these guys who are in the program. I was in the program. I've sat in those same chairs. I can help them through. There wasn't a moment in that year that I wasn't grateful. Didn't matter how I felt about it. I was grateful. For the first thing I would, and I still do, I got in this habit of when I wake up in the morning, thank you for your breath in my lungs, Lord. Thank you for waking me up. Like I'm alive today, really alive, right? And so just kind of continuing to work for the mission. I love that part of it. Build relationships. I can look back. Is my problem in the past is I would spend so much time of looking in that almost decade-long addiction process that I lost in my kids' lives, in my family's life, right? I wasn't there for my dad, But on the other side of that coin, on the God side, it's like, you know what? You have right now. We don't live in yesterday. And we don't really know what tomorrow holds. Right now, rebuild those relationships. I'm there. I get to go watch, my youngest daughter's play next weekend. Her senior play. You know what I mean? I get to sit there, and this would be like the third one in a row that I've gotten to see.
Love it.
Because Dad's here today, and I get to be a part of my son's life, and I get to be, my oldest lives down in Texas, but I get to be a part of her life from a distance, and I want to hold the grandbaby so bad. I have a third one's on the way.
Oh, so. Congratulations!
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I just wherever God leads me. And again, I'm a knucklehead, so he's very obvious with me, which is great.
He's a good God that way.
He is. Yes, he is.
Well, thank you, Rob. Thank you so much. This is special to us too, because, I'm the pastor of the Monroe Seventh-day Church, and we have been praying for you. We have been praying for you for those years. So to hear your story is just it's a testimony to us too that prayer works.
And from the bottom of my heart, thank you, and thank you to your congregation.
Well, hey, thank you for being here and sharing this. This is thrilling. So
my pleasure.
And we're excited now to listen to Richie's message, which is talking about the first chain being broken in this journey, which Rob shared some of that, and that is dishonesty. So let's watch Richie now.
Welcome back to Unchained, Hope and Healing from Addiction. In this series, we're going to look at ways that we can break through some of the addictions and toxic ways of dealing with life. It doesn't matter if it's a big addiction or a small addiction, whatever it is, you can find a freer, better way to live life. And so that's what this series is all about. In our last session, we looked at this person, the demoniac, who was filled with demons. He was chains all over his body, and he was living in a graveyard. And we saw what God was able to do in him, and that's the good news of this series, Unchained, is God can do that in your life as well. Now, the first breakthrough that we have to have if we want to live an unchained life is we have got to break through the dishonesty and the denial. We've got to recognize there's a problem if we're going to deal with the problem. We've got to be willing to recognize and identify the elephant in the room. There is a children's book called There Is No Such Thing as Dragons. And in this story, there is a boy who sees a small dragon at home one day, and he tells his mom, And his mom quickly says, well, honey, there's no such things as dragons. And at first, this dragon is small. It's manageable. But every time the mom says there's no such thing as dragons, the dragon gets bigger. It gets bigger until the dragon is bigger than their house. And it's running all through town and it's causing all kinds of problems. And again, the mother is just kind of oblivious to this dragon. She can't see it, or maybe she's not willing to see it. Finally, the dad comes home and he asks what happened. And Billy says, well, it was the dragon. And mother begins to say, but there's no such thing as, and then Billy interrupts. There is a dragon, Mom. There is a very big dragon. And as they start acknowledging the dragon and its reality, the dragon starts to shrink. And it gets smaller and it gets smaller and it gets smaller until at the very end it's back to being about the size of a cat. At the end, the mom asks, well, why did the dragon have to get so big? And Billy says, I think it just wanted to be noticed. Problems, addictions, dysfunctions, they don't get better by ignoring them. Man, they only get worse. You see, it's only after admitting the problem that we can actually address the problem. The problem is as the pastor Timothy Keller puts, our lives run on denial like cars run on gasoline. You see, we just are constantly filled with denial about everything. Everyone is. It's always easier to see someone else's problem than to deal with our own problem. It's always easier to see someone else's insanity than our own insanity. But this is the thing, an upper-class, pill-popping, doctor-hopping addict is no less insane than the homeless person shooting up dope under the bridge. In fact, I would suggest the person under the bridge is less insane because at least they know that they've got a problem. We've got to get honest. A lot of people watching and a lot of people in the world, maybe you haven't gotten honest with the reality that you have a problem, that there's something in your life that is holding you back. In John's gospel, we have two people who've got to get honest if they're going to get any better. And what I love about this story is these are two totally different people. All right, in John 3, we have our first character. It says, there was a man of the Pharisees named Nicodemus, a ruler of the Jews. This man came to Jesus by night. And then in John 4, the next chapter, we have our second character. It was about the 6th hour, a woman of Samaria came to draw water. And so Nicodemus goes to Jesus at night. The Samaritan woman goes to the well when no one is supposed to be there. Man, it is amazing the things we try to do to hide from each other. You see, Nicodemus and the Samaritan woman are as different from each other as you can get, or so it seems. One's a Jew, one's a Samaritan, and they didn't like each other. One's a male, one's a female. One is very famous, he's a ruler of the synagogue, and the other one, the Bible doesn't even record her name. And yet I find it really cool that for both these people and their problems, the solution is exactly the same. John 3:5, Jesus tells Nicodemus, truly, truly, I say to you, unless one is born of water and the Spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of God. And then to the woman at the well, Jesus says, if you knew the gift of God and who it is that is saying to you, give me a drink, you would have asked him and he would have given you living water. Man, God wants to give you something that really works. Because often the wells we go to in life doesn't work. Or it doesn't work for long. You know, the drugs work for a little bit, but it doesn't last. You know, popularity works for a little while, but I promise before long you're going to be thirsty again. The pats on the back work for a little while, they feel good, but you're going to be thirsty again. Look, the drugs work at first, but you're going to get thirsty again. Religion without a relationship, right? Just living a religious life, that works for a little while. But you're never quite feel good enough or like you've done quite enough. You're going to be thirsty again. So check this out. Nicodemus goes to Jesus in the middle of the night, right? Why? Well, because he's got a reputation. He's hiding. The Samaritan woman goes to the well at noontime, which was the hottest time of the day, and no one went to the well at that time because, you see, she's also hiding. And interestingly, she's not hiding to keep her reputation. She's hiding because of her reputation. But you know what I love about this story? Is Jesus is already waiting for her at the well. Before she shows up, Jesus is already there. You need to know that God has a solution for you before you even realize it. Before you had a problem, God had a solution. He's already there. Jesus is already with you right now. You may not always feel it, but He's with you. When Jesus asks the Samaritan woman for a drink, it's important to know that when God asks a question, He has all the cards, right? So He's not asking the question for information. When God asks a question, they're always rhetorical, okay? When Jesus asks the question, He's trying to drive home a spiritual point. He doesn't really want a drink. Jesus asks for a drink in order to give the woman a drink. Jesus, whenever He asks for something from us, it's always so He can give us something better. So if He asks for you to surrender the toxic relationship, it's so that He can give you a healthy, better relationship. I know you think that you don't deserve better, but you do. If He asks you to surrender your old life, it's so He can give you a new life. If He asks you for your chains, it's so that He can give you His freedom. Now, when you study this phrase, living water, that was used by people in this time and place for what we would call running water. All right? So living water was basically running water. It was fresh water that came from a stream and not from a well. So living water was believed to come directly from God. It was believed to be supernatural. Friends, only God can give you the water that really satisfies. And so the Samaritan woman asks him, how is it that you, a Jew, ask for a drink from me, a woman of Samaria? And the woman said to him, Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain. You see, she's trying to change the subject. She's dancing around the issue. She doesn't really want to get honest about what's going on in her life. And really, when you look at Nicodemus, he does the exact same thing. Rabbi, we know that you are a teacher come from God, for no one can do these signs that you do unless God is with him. And then he says in John 3:4, how can someone be born when they are old? The Samaritan woman says, you don't have a rope or a bucket to draw up any water. They keep throwing up objections to Jesus instead of really answering his question, really dealing with the issue. The woman says, I don't have a bucket, and this well is very deep. The well isn't deep. Her denial and dishonesty is deep. You see, neither Nicodemus or the Samaritan woman are wanting to be totally honest with Jesus. They're not really wanting to get real with him. But friends, honesty is the place where victory begins. In recovery, if you say something in meetings, and this is something that I had to get used to at first, but addiction has a way of bringing you to your knees. And I remember the first time I went to a meeting, and whenever someone speaks or says something, they always preface it with, my name is so-and-so and I am an addict. My name is so-and-so and I am an addict. And this is to do something extremely important, and that is to get honest about the reality that I'm an addict. To tell on my addiction. Freedom comes when we get honest. My name is Richie. I'm an addict. I've got a problem. It's freeing. It's liberating. That's where the solution can begin. Right now, each one of us needs to get real. And maybe you're not an addict, but you need to say, hey, my name is so-and-so, and I'm messed up. Man, I have a spending problem. I've got a judgmental problem. I've got a control problem. I've got an anger problem. I need help. And the moment we can admit our problem, man, healing starts happening. And so Jesus is dealing with this with Nicodemus and this woman at the well. Jesus says in John 4:14, the water that I will give them will become in them a spring of living water welling up for eternal life. You haven't experienced life until you've experienced my life. And notice when Jesus says that, the woman says, Sir, give me this water that I may not thirst nor come here to draw. She wants living water now. But of course, Jesus really isn't talking about water. And so what does he do? He brings her to that point, and now it's up to her. She's got to be willing to get honest. You want living water? Then you've got to get real about where you have been going to for fulfillment. You have to get honest that what you've been going to hasn't been working. You've got to be real that what you've been doing doesn't work. John 4:16, go call your husband and come here. You see, Jesus is getting to the core of the problem. She's trying to skirt around the issue. Jesus brings her back. And so she says to him, when he says, bring your husband here, he says, I don't have a husband, the woman replied. So now she's only being partially honest. Friends, partial honesty will not unchain you. It doesn't work. You got to be totally honest, completely honest. And so Jesus says, you're right, you don't have a husband. You've got 5 husbands, and you aren't even married to the man that you're living with now. You spoke the truth. The truth is out. The problem has been identified. She's been going to the wrong thing for satisfaction and fulfillment. But now she tastes the living water of Jesus Christ. Now that she's gotten honest, she's feeling liberated from her problem and her shame and her pain. And that's why in John 4:28, it says that the woman left her water jar. You see, she left her water jar behind because she realizes that that water cannot fulfill her anymore. She leaves her water jar behind because she realizes that she doesn't need that water anymore. It doesn't work. Only the living water works. And so it's not an accident that these 2 stories are right next to each other in John's gospel. So you have Nicodemus, a ruler of the Jews, and he comes to Jesus by night. And you have a Samaritan woman who came to draw water at noontime. Jesus waits for the church leader to come to him, but for the nameless prostitute who's hooked up with 5 different guys, Jesus goes all the way to Samaria to find them. So Jesus has to wait for some of us to come to him because you see, we think we know everything, right? Nicodemus thinks he knows everything. And so Jesus allows Nicodemus to come to him. But for others of us who are so broken, so lost, Jesus goes all the way to where we are to find us. To Nicodemus, Jesus says, look, all the morality, all the religion, all your works. The Pharisees were these groups of people, man. They had the Bible memorized. They counted their steps. They were extremely religious. And yet Jesus says, you got to be born again. All the morality and religion in the world cannot save you, Nicodemus. To the Samaritan woman, Jesus says, the wells that you've been going to will not fulfill you. Their situations seem different, but check it out. The solution is the same. To Nicodemus, someone who thinks he knows everything, Jesus says, you need to be born again. So that truth is humbling. Nicodemus, you got to get over yourself. But to the woman who already thinks she's nothing, Jesus says, look, for you I have living water. It's empowering. She doesn't need to be humbled. You see, life already humbled her. She needs to be lifted up. The gospel, that's what the gospel does. It humbles, it's got to humble some of us, and it empowers others of us. To those who don't think they know anything, Jesus says, I have living water. And to those that think they know everything, he says, look, Nicodemus, sit down, shut up. You need to be born again. Both Nicodemus and the Samaritan woman were hiding. One to keep his good reputation, the other because of her bad reputation. One life was filled with accomplishments, the other life was filled with mistakes. And yet Jesus doesn't really care where you came from. What Jesus wants to know, not where you came from, but where are you going? Both Nicodemus and the Samaritan woman were on roads leading to dead ends. One was looking for purpose and fulfillment in their good works. The other was looking for purpose and fulfillment in their good looks. Both were chained by what people thought. Both were chained by the way they were raised. Both were chained to dysfunctional approaches to life. They seem to be 2 polar opposites, but their problem is the same. And so we have a male and we have a female. We have a named and we have the unnamed. We have the educated and we have the uneducated. We have the churched and we have the unchurched. We have a Jew and we have a Samaritan. Jesus seeks one out, the other one seeks Jesus out. One has the Bible memorized, the other has had 5 different husbands. But Jesus offers them both the same thing, living water. Friends, Jesus brought all of us here today. Jesus is speaking to all of us here today. Different people with different problems, different pasts, different pay scales. The Nicodemuses are watching. The Samaritans are watching. The cheaters are watching. The Pharisees are watching. The religious, the worldly, the Democrats, Republicans, smart people, not so smart people. And yet we all need the same thing. Our solution is all ultimately the same thing, and that's living water. You know what I love about Jesus is he meets us wherever we are. Jesus meets the woman at the well at Samaria in the middle of the day, and he also meets Nicodemus in the middle of the night. You see, God has to meet you where you are because he can't meet you where you are not. And so you got to get honest. Stop pretending and start admitting. You know, we've got to admit that we don't have all the answers. We have to admit that, you know what, maybe the way I was raised was a little dysfunctional. We have to admit that, you know what, the way the secular world thinks about this issue, maybe that's not right. We have to admit that we have a problem. We have to admit that we don't have all the answers, that we don't have everything together. We have to admit that we don't just need a few things fixed. We need everything fixed. That I don't just have a problem or a few problems, but that, man, sometimes my greatest problem isn't my predicament or my situation, it's my thinking. And when you start getting honest, man, your chains start losing their power and they start breaking. In John 8:32, Jesus said, the truth will set you free. So check this out. Freedom cannot happen without truth and honesty. They are inextricably linked. The next time we see Nicodemus, it's in the day, out in the open, publicly asking Pilate for the body of Jesus. You see, friends, that's what the living water will do to you. And so someone who met Jesus originally in the middle of the night now goes in the middle of the day and doesn't care who sees him. And he goes and he asks for the body of Jesus so that he can bury him. The next time we see the Samaritan woman, she's looking for the same people that she used to avoid. That's why she was going to the well in the middle of the day. They're no longer controlled by what people think. They're no longer chained by their problem. They're no longer hiding in their works or hiding in their addictions or in their habits or in their hurt. They're 2 totally different people, but they're joined by the exact same need. Both were empty, needing to be filled. Both were dirty, felt dirty, and they needed to be washed. And Jesus comes along and offers them both water. Friends, the moment I started admitting I was powerless over my addiction and that my life was unmanageable was when my chains started breaking. That's where the journey has to begin. The truth can set you free right now, but you've got to get honest. You've got to get real about what you're going through. What do you have to get honest about right now? You can drop your bucket and you can drop the act and you can receive Jesus' living water today and feel the liberation and freedom. Jesus already knows exactly where you are. Get honest with him. He already knows the truth about you. And so you can get honest with yourself and experience that chain of denial and dishonesty break free.
Thank you, Richie. Wow, you know, admitting we need help. Yeah. Admitting we need help is the biggest step, and to get honest with ourselves. And when we can get honest with ourselves, we can allow Jesus to show us who we are, and there's no shame in that.
No shame.
When he shows us who we are, it's a sweet conviction, and he comes in and he gives us a life that we have always wanted, a freedom we have always wanted. Oh, wow, what a blessing. And what a blessing to have you, Rob, with us tonight. Thank you again for being with us. We had some great questions come in that I would love for you to answer for our viewers. And remember, throughout our nights, you can put in that chat questions for the people that come in, our guests that come in that we're interviewing. And so thank you for getting these great questions. I picked about 2 or 3. So what was going on in your heart and mind when you saw your children and your ex-wives? Like, how could you look at them and at the same time want your drugs more?
Yeah, I think, I was kind of trapped in that darkness, right? I was so ashamed of what I was doing and what I'd become. It was so great in that first moment to see them. I was like, hey, my family, there they are. And then it didn't take long for that situation to flop in my head and go, but look at you right now. Look at how disgusting you are. And they're just happy to see that you're alive, but you're still gross. And, that shame comes in. The devil grabs that. And he's grabbing a hold of that. And he's like, yeah, you're not worthy of this. You're not worthy of that. They'd be better off without you. The old lies come creeping right back in. And that's why when it was like time to, you want to come in and you want to get better, it's like, I can never get better. I am unredeemable. And that moment is how I felt. I felt unredeemable. And they would be better off. They got, they got themselves a new dad in the stepdad, right? And so that's, they'd be better off with him to lie, but that's the devil uses that. So and then that pain that comes from that, I needed to medicate that somehow. And without the Holy Spirit's medication, I couldn't handle it alone.
Yeah. Like we were talking about earlier, right? He's the tempter and then he becomes the accuser.
Absolutely.
And so you see this light of, oh, I want to be with my family, but yet he's pouring these lies into your head that, you're not worth it, and it keeps you paralyzed.
100%
to stay in that.
Absolutely.
So the next question, what do you do now when you have the urge to use?
I've been blessed, and I used to pray that. I remember when I went to Turning Point, even before I'd opened the Gospels, I knew that God was real. I had that encounter with him at detox, and so now I'm in this 28-day. I would get down on a knee and I'd say, Lord, please relieve me of my desire to use and the need to think about not using. Relieve me this day alone. I praise you, Lord. I love you. Amen. And I would kind of do that every morning. And ever since then, there was one time where I did have, I was actually at Riverton. So this is maybe about 2-3 months later. I was going through a period of post-acute withdrawal where we kind of have dips, and as our physiological bodies start to kind of repair, we have these dips, right? And I had one, and I just all of a sudden I wanted to go smoke a bowl of meth. And in that moment, I just immediately, because I'd done all the things in recovery already, I was already attending meetings and stuff. I played that tape all the way through, as we call it in the rooms. I was like, okay, if I do that, then this is going to happen, because you can only do it once. Once you start that again, that's going to be the next day and the next day. And then everything that you have, this life that you're beginning to build, all comes crumbling down again. And you turn your back on God. And that's the biggest part of it. In that moment, once I had accepted Jesus into my heart in that moment, and it was now, that's a really big thing to lose, and to turn my back on God, the one who saved me, the one who pursued me throughout all my addiction, who taught me that I was lovable, because he spoke the entire universe into existence, but he knew my name before time began, right? That's incredible. That power in that. Such power in that. Such power in that.
Do you find that there are sometimes, I know, like with my brother, it was hard for him. He would kind of want to not go to certain places, or places where he used to use, and different places like that. It was healthier for him not to be around that. Do you find that yourself? Like, is that another thing that can kind of that helps you keep your mind clear, keep your heart and your mind on Jesus? Or do you not find that that's an issue for you?
Well, the one thing about that, I will say, no matter where I go, I bring me with me. Right. So now I don't live where I used to live. I live in South Seattle, Rainier Valley right now. And I work in Burien. And so having that separation is good. Now I did go back. I have family up here, up in Everett, and I go and visit and stuff like that. And I've been around those very places. In fact, I got to do 9-step amends. And for those of you who don't know what 9-step amends is, it's an opportunity for us to kind of make right with the world. The first 3 steps are based on I can't, so God can, so I'm going to let him.
Okay.
And then 4, 5, 6, and 7 is basically admitting your sins. Getting down on one knee and admitting yourself and to God and to another human being. So sharing your burden with another and sharing it with God. God already knows, but He wants us to repent.
Yeah.
And then,
Yes.
and then,
Yes.
you know, 6 and 7, we're kind of asking for those defects to remove. 8 and 9 is when we make outside amends to those we've harmed, right? And so there was people. The reason why I went to that Dollar Tree is because there was a manager there by the name of Jen who loved on me and would be nice to me and let me stand up in front of her store and panhandle, and she'd take care of me and give me cigarettes, you know, and stuff like that, and give me some food sometimes, and just talk to me, treat me like a normal human being, give me that little bit of light, little pinprick of light in the darkness. So I got an opportunity to go and talk to her and say thank you. And she's like, are you the same guy?
I love that.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, but
So
there's,
powerful.
but at the same time, I think it's better. I know God, I'm trusting that God has me in the right place where I don't need to be around that. In fact, I just went with my daughter to a store last time I was up for Easter, and I ran into somebody I used to use with out in front of the store, and it was he didn't recognize me, but I certainly did him, and it was like, whoa, it's right here.
Yeah.
You know, it is nice to have that separation.
Wow. Well, Rob, thank you so much again for sharing your story.
Absolutely.
It's been such a blessing. And I know it's been a blessing to you guys watching. And we just thank you. And we praise God for what he's doing in your life and how you're using now your story to help other people. We do appreciate you guys tuning in, and thank you for registering. Please continue to register. Look at that number, put that number in your phone and register every night, because all you have to do is text Unchained to that number, and that means you're watching tonight and you get entered into that drawing. And for those of you who did register, we thank you. Thank you so much. And we have tonight's winner for Richie's book, The Darkness Will Not Overcome. And we're going to also give another little gift certificate with this, and we will send it to you. But our winner tonight is Cheery Dunfield. And so I'm super excited about that. I happen to know Cheery. Cheery lives in Spokane. And so thank you, Cheery, for tuning in tonight. And we're so excited that you won. And I know that you'll appreciate this book and the little other gift that we have coming to you. So we have your information, and we'll be sending that to you. But please continue, everyone, to text Unchained to 534-444-7183 so that you also can be entered in every night. We'll know you're here. We'll know that you're watching. Well, I don't know about you, but I have been richly blessed this evening talking to Rob, hearing Richie's message. So don't forget to join us tomorrow night at 7:30 Pacific Standard Time, when we will look at our breakthrough in breaking the chain of despair. Tonight was dishonesty. Tomorrow night is despair. And we will also be joined by Roger Evans. He will be our special guest, and we'll be hearing his story. He'll be sharing some of his story of breaking free from the chains that once held him back. Before we close, we wanted again to, we'll share with you a list of resources so that you can have. And then also I have a local resource. Rob actually shared this with us. This is Seattle's Union Gospel Mission, and their website is ugm.org. So Seattle's Union Gospel Mission, UGM.org. Love, hope, plus life. And they are here to help. And there is a number as well. If you right now are like, look, I need help. I know I need help. They have a number there. It's 206-501-HELP. Again, that is 206-501-HELP. And you can also email gethelp@ugm.org. And we will continue to share this resource. And that is the Union Gospel Mission, Seattle Union Gospel Mission. Thank you again for joining us. God bless. Have a wonderful evening, and we will see you tomorrow night. Tell your friends, your neighbors, your loved ones, the people God puts in your path about this program, because you never know who may be needing to break the chains, allowing God to come in, and so that they can also lead a beautiful, unchained life of freedom. God bless. Have a great evening.